Hey everyone, Jim Branscombe here, back again for another edition of In the Mouth of Cinemadness. This is a sub-series of the Cinematness vlog where I talk about different films, TV shows, other forms of media that had a profound impact on me at various points in my life, and I basically just took all those things, mixed them up, and here you go. You get the cinematic void. The movie I'm talking about today was a movie that I was aware about for several years, but just hadn't really seen it until maybe the last decade or so. And since the new year is almost upon us, I figured it'd be a good time to talk about one of my favorite New Year's Eve set movies. No, it's not a horror movie, it's actually a comedy. And this is a movie from the director of Rock and Roll High School, Alan Arkush, and I'm talking about 1983's Get Crazy. For those of you who haven't seen Get Crazy, on New Year's Eve, the rock club, the Saturn, usually throws a big bash every year. And this year, there's a shady rock promoter that's trying to come in and take over the building from the owner. Owner doesn't want to do any of that stuff, but he falls ill. And because he's falling ill, there's a fear that the big bash isn't going to come through. So a bunch of favors are called in, and he brings in some of his favorite acts, some of them very huge over the years, to do the biggest New Year's bash ever. However, that shady rock promoter wants to sabotage it and ruin it so he can take over the club. Now, the movie is loosely based on Alan Arkush's real life when he used to work at the Fillmore East, which is a famous New York club. In fact, his original intention in making the movie was kind of do like a sincere, heartfelt, nostalgia piece. However, the financiers wanted to do a comedy in the style of like Airplane, so Alan kind of split the difference and, made it a comedy, made it more current times as opposed to back in the 60s when he worked at the Fillmore East. And what you get is a really crazy, incredibly fun movie. The movie has a great cast, including Daniel Stern, Gail Edwards, Malcolm McDowell, Ed Begley Jr., Stacey Nelkin. It also features a bunch of Roger Corman regulars, including Paul Bartel, Mary Warnoff, Dick Miller, and Jackie Joseph. And there's a ton of really famous musicians throughout the movie, including Lee Ving from the band Fear, John Desmore, the drummer of The Doors, Howard Kalin of the Turtles, and Lou Reed of the Velvet Underground. There's a bit of a weird and sad history involved with Get Crazy. For one, Alan Arkush was really in need of a job after his second movie, Heartbeats, had not done so well at the box office following up Rock and Roll High School, so he basically took the gig because he wanted to have another movie out there to kind of cleanse the palate, so to speak. But the investors of this movie weren't really concerned if this movie would actually come out or not. In fact, in a weird kind of scheme in a way, they were basically just making this movie as a tax write-off and didn't really care or didn't really want it to come out. Alan Arkush was obviously pretty bummed out when he found this out, but he basically kept pushing forward and made a really terrific movie regardless. It did have a blink and you miss it theatrical run, which I think was contractually obligated, but then the movie kind of went on VHS and then disappeared for a lot of years, which is a real shame. Even though Arkush's original intent in making the movie was to do something more heartfelt and sincere, it actually kind of lands as the Airplane-esque comedy. Like, the jokes really work, but more importantly, it's the musical numbers that really stick the landing for this movie. In fact, there's several original songs featured throughout because, it's a concert movie. Of course you're going to see people perform. Two of my favorite highlights is with the Nada Band featuring Laurie Eastside as Nada. They perform a song called I'm Not Gonna Take It No More, which is a kind of a mix of go-go's and doo-wop and things like that. It's a really catchy song, and if you didn't know it was just a song written for the movie, it could honestly have been a hit on MTV at the time. The other favorite song of mine is Hot Shot, which is sung by Malcolm McDowell as his character, Reggie Wanker. He's playing kind of a Mick Jagger-esque performer that's very egocentric, and he's strutting around. And Malcolm actually insisted to actually sing his own song in the movie, and goddamn, he is really good. The movie was primarily shot at the Wiltern Theater, and at the time, the theater was kind of in heavily disarray, and at one point was considered to be torn down, but instead they decided that they were going to renovate it and fix it up. But before they did that, Alan Arkush and his crew got in there and shot the movie. As you can see here, this is the exterior of the Wiltern Theater, and pretty similar to how it was when Get Crazy was made. Unfortunately, I can't go inside the venue unless I was there for a concert, but luckily enough, I have some clips of some shows I've been to at the Wiltern. First one here is At the Gates. And this one here is Electric Wizard. There's a few other exterior filming locations that I've been trying to figure out where they're at. I think some of them are actually pretty close to wherever the Wiltern is. But once I do, I'm planning on doing a Get Crazy filming location video at some point. So how did I come across Get Crazy? Well, it wasn't something that I had saw back in the day on VHS or anything like that. It's about maybe 10 years ago. I saw it on YouTube of all places. And just watching, I was just like, wow, this is a lot of fun and really amazing. And I was doing more research on it, and that's when I kind of discovered like its weird theatrical history and like some of the circumstances how it was made. In winter of 2015, I had done a pitch to do Cinematic Void, and I had found out I was probably not going to have my first screening until February of 2016, but I started compiling a bunch of movies that I would like to have done, and one of the early picks was to do Get Crazy on around New Year's. And in fact, if you want to go way back on the Cinematic Void Instagram and Facebook, you can find some clips and mentions of Get Crazy back then. Now, unfortunately, every time I wanted to book Get Crazy from 2016 through 2019, there just wasn't a good opportunity. Jump to December 2021, theaters had reopened, it's post-lockdown of the pandemic, and I had started doing screenings at the Los Feliz 3. I had a December slot I had the program, and even though it wasn't exactly close to New Year's, I knew I wanted to Get Crazy. So the American Cinematheque greenlit the screening and booked a 35mm print from MGM, and then I contacted the director, Alan Arkish, to see if he would want to come out and do a Q&A for the movie. And he was like, yes. And incidentally enough, Kino Lorber was putting out Get Crazy on Blu-ray for the first time, and I contacted them and got a stack of Blu-rays to give away as a tie-in. When I was talking to Alan, I was like, who else did you want me to invite from the film? And Alan suggested I reach out to Laurie Eastside and Lee Ving, and I did, and both of them enthusiastically said yes. So I ended up showing Get Crazy in 35mm with Alan Arkish and two of the actors, Laurie Eastside and Lee Ving, and it ended up being one of my all-time favorite screenings I've ever done. Laurie, Lee, and Alan were delightful. They told some great stories about the making of the movie, and I could tell Alan felt really vindicated watching the movie with a sold-out crowd who really got the movie for what it is and enjoyed it and had a blast.
The fact, the way everyone talks about this movie and the experience of something that happened 38 years ago to them, in a theater and a parking lot on the corner of Western and Wilshire, and the passion that they talk about and the experience, it just made, after all the pain that I went through on the movie, I'm doing fine, you know, but just all the negativity, it was, my whole head has turned around on what we accomplished. And as dated as some of it is, it's still funny, and it's still a dumb rock and roll movie, you know, and that's what I was aspiring to with real rock and roll.
Sort of like how I always watch Roller Coaster around 4th of July. On New Year's, I always make it a point to watch Get Crazy because it's just such a fun, energetic, enjoyable movie with killer music, great jokes, and it's a world that I wish I could be at. And if I ever feel like I'm down or need to pick me up, you know, sometimes you gotta summon Electric Larry. But anyway, that's going to wrap up Cinematic Void for 2024. Until next time, see you in the void, and also see you in 2025.
Oh shit! Oh shit!